smash burger, and it sounded.
Hello, and welcome back.
Here we are.
Sorry, the clock called us. We were talking about food, one of our favorite subjects.
Food, feed, yeah.
I mean, something's eaten, whether it's birds or us or some other livestock.
That's right.
So tonight we're going to talk about chicks, specifically hen hatching or using a hatcher. Several people have mentioned this to us, direct messages and through comments online. There's lots of stuff about incubating, hatching eggs. Like, it's all over the place. Different this, different that. Well, tonight we're going to talk about hen hatching. Because, number one, a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people are scared of it because nobody talks about it. So tonight, we're going to shed a little bit on it. Because, yeah, it is a thing.
But there wouldn't be any chickens if there wasn't hen hatching before incubators came along.
So the first time I hen hatched was probably last year. And, I raised some large fowl and I also raised some game fowl. And I had a hen. It was about this time of year. She went broody. And I was like, you know what? I'm not messing with you. It's too hot. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to change out your water. I'm gone. I let her lay on. Those are probably some of the most vigorous birds I have ever put on the ground. I think they were like 2, maybe 3. No, they were less than a month old. And, I believe I told you about it. I know I told Rip because I was in shock. The roost in this particular breeding pen, there's one at about 2.5 feet, and then there's another one at 6 feet. Because, birds love to get high. Game fowl don't weigh much, and they like to fly. So I'm not going to get in touch. I'm not going to argue with them on it. And I go out there one night to check on my birds. It's starting to get cold, and I just hear chirping, but I can't find them. I'm like, oh crap, they got out. Where are they? What are they doing? And I'm looking around, and I look up to see if I can see the hen or anything looking at them. And they were underneath her on the roost pole, 6 feet up in the air, less than a month old. Ever since then, I've been a huge believer in it. And looks like we got some other folks that's big fans of it too.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. This right here, this gets me every time, Jeff. Sue has silkies.
Yeah.
And, I love Sue. She just does not seem like the lady that would have silkies because she really, really loves her Krevkers and her Rhode Island Reds. And, they're
okay.
I guess the Krevkers got the fuzzy head like the silkies do.
She's putting them to work. Okay. This is actually a very common practice. There is, I talk to people pretty frequently, that keep silkies around because they go so broody, so easy. And for the most part, they're decent. They're really decent mothers, right? And, they'll stay on the nest as good as any. And, so look, Silkies, I know how you feel about Silkies, and we're not going to say it on air, but you know what? To each
Hey,
their own, right?
I mean, they're straight up America's incubator.
They do a
Like
great
they're
job.
incubator of the fowl world.
Dude, if I told you the value of Silkies, okay, we got barns here in my area that are doing 10,000 Silkies at a time. Okay. Grow out 10,000 Silkies at a time because the ethnic live bird market in New York City, there's groups up there that prefer eating Silkie over anything else. Okay. I ain't making this up. So there's money in Silkies. Okay.
I mean, I know that. Like I have a line of feed that's specifically geared towards Silkies, and people buy it.
Huh?
Like I know that Silkies are a thing, and they definitely have their place.
You know why there's so many different breeds of chickens out there? Because there's so
So
many
many people
different
that
kinds
like
of
them.
people, right? Okay, so there ain't no right or wrong. Whatever works for you and you're happy, that's what you need to do.
There you go. Okay.
Can't,
So
you shouldn't condemn people for their choices in chickens. There's other things you can condemn them about, but not their choices in chicken. Just let it be.
I mean,
Right?
I don't condemn them for their Silkies.
Right.
It's
I mean, I'm a turkey guy. You know, when I retire and disappear into the wilderness, I'm going to have turkeys. Right. So
yeah.
I like their personality. They like people. They're personable. Right. Anyway, we're getting off subject.
Look, mine are very personable. They will, if you're not careful, they will trip you up when you go in there to feed them because they're curious. They want to know what the crap you're doing,
Well, they just, I don't know. They like people.
and they make
If
that
you
little
raise
chirper.
them right when they're chicks,
Mm-hmm.
they'll follow you around like a dog, and
They will.
they're
Yeah.
happy. Yeah. Um, so anyway, let's
All
get
right.
back
So
to incubator, hen hatch,
they're all right. Whether you
pros,
love the
cons.
natural touch or the controlled consistency of technology, we got something for everybody in this one. And I mean, it is what it is. What are the pros of letting a hen hatch their own chicks?
You almost always have a higher hatch rate. Almost always have a higher hatch rate because if it's a good hen, if it's a good mother, right? You know, she stays on there, right? Her external body temperature is perfect. And, you know, she's emitting body moisture. So the humidity stays on the higher side,
Yeah.
right? Um, the big pros are when those chicks hatch, she shows them how to eat. She shows them where to drink. She shows them how to act. She shows them how to scratch the ground. She shows them, right? She shows them what chickens are supposed to do. Right.
Yeah, that is true.
The big winner, why hens are superior to any incubator, is the parenting factor. Right. The teaching them what to do, the garden them. Right. I mean, she teaches them where to go. When you finally let them out where they can free range and do their own thing. Right. She teaches them where to go, where not to go, who to stay away from. She protects them. And, if she's a good hen, right? If your hen ain't doing that, she needs to be in the stew pot. Okay. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? But a good hen, she guards those chicks really, really well. And there ain't nobody going to mess with them.
So I've actually thought about getting a grow out of Silkies because of their broodiness. Because I love my Rhode Island Reds and I love my American Breasts, but them son of a guns don't ever go broody. Like most of my Rhode Island Reds, if I'm outside when they start making that chattering sound and they pop an egg out in the box, they get out and they're like, "What is that? What am I? Get that out of here!" And they'll look at me and be like, "Hey, there's something in my next box. I want to get back in it, but you need to get that out."
They will go broody. You just have to give them time. So I'm trying. For years I'm trying to figure out what's the secret of broodiness. How to prevent it, how to trigger it, whatever, right? And a little bit of reading in the Hubbard manual for keeping breeders, and some other places. It's like we hit like a certain heat, a certain humidity, and it depends on the breed, but something in their mind triggers based on environmental conditions.
Yeah.
Right. And they just go right now. Like we discussed, some breeds are more prone to broodiness than others, right? Like the Silkies, not a problem, right? And a lot of the duck breeds, not a problem, right? It's just more of an instinct, built into them. But
people ask me to explain it. And I'm like, hey, look, that's a female. And it's a phenomenon that men are not supposed to understand women. I don't try to with the hens either. There's no rhyme or reason. It just is what it is.
You're going to get shot. You need to stay in your lane here, buddy.
Hey, look, I embrace it.
All right.
Because there's no, I wouldn't do it. There's no way. Another question that I see, because a lot of times prepping for these, I take the questions that our viewers give us, but I also look the interwebs for questions. And I see this a lot. And to me and probably to you too, and several people watching live now, it's kind of funny. But I see people asking a lot, can a hen hatch eggs from other breeds?
They can hatch any egg, right?
I guarantee you, Sue's Silkies aren't like, whoa, hey, that's a Rhode Island red egg. That's not one of mine. Get it out of here. That's not happening. One thing that I do wonder, though, and if somebody's done this, I'd like to know the answer. Otherwise, I might have to try it. But I'm curious, what would happen if a Silkie hatched a turkey? And how long would it take for the turkey to outgrow the Silkie?
About 6 or 8 weeks. You need to try that. I like that idea. So
that's perfect timing too.
Yeah.
Let's look over here. Oh yeah, this one, she had a bad experience. She said her son's Bantam coaching, which Bantam and coaching to me just doesn't really go together, because coachings, I don't even think Bantam coachings are small. But this one squished 3 out of 4 chicks.
See, and I don't know how that's strange. Okay, so and I don't know anything about Kayla's situation, right? So I'm only going on speculation, but I'm wondering if the nest box was too small. Okay. That's the only thing I'm wondering. If there wasn't enough room for her to get in there, turn around, enough room for her and the chicks to be comfortable. I'm just wondering if the nest box was just a little too small. All right. So I don't know. That would be my guess.
But that's unfortunate. And when you've got a bird, especially a good quality show bird that has the stance, the station, the color, you can't help but to hatch those out and carry that on. And it really sucks that you don't have a good bond.
And maybe it was their first time too. So pullets are reckless.
That is true. Yeah.
Pullets are really reckless. So, it's 50-50 with a pullet hatching out, right? So, but you got to try it to see.
Yeah.
If otherwise, she's going to be good or not. But, when you find that good hen that meets your qualifications, you probably want to start keeping pullets from her and hope that instinct moves forward.
It is get it to come back.
It is an instinct. It is a genetic thing. So,
see, Sue says that I think this is a 2-part comment. The first one is right here. It says her older reds stay by the house and they have a whole acre to explore. They don't know how to forage. She wants them to forage to be confident instead of looking at her.
Okay. I'm not picking on Sue. This is for anybody else out there. But if there's food always in the feeder for people who like to free choice feed, they for sure are not going to go very far, right? Especially in the middle of the day if it's hot, no shade, not enough trees. But, again, I haven't seen Sue's yard, so I'm only speculating, right? But so one of the reasons why I am pro, limiting feed, give just a little bit in the morning to wake them up with, and then give them the bulk of their feed, an hour before they go to the roost, is that stimulates them to do more foraging and get out and look around. If the feeder's empty, they'll go looking for something to do. Feeder ain't empty, they not so much, right? So,
they go hit the buffet.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the case for many birds.
Oh look, Kayla says no nest box. She thinks the hen's a few marbles short.
That could be, right?
So. But again, when you got a beautiful bird and you want more, you got to do whatever to get them to carry forward.
Yeah.
Let's see. Esther says, I feel like chicks are less accessible for daily handling and weighing with the broody. Mom and dad get defensive. I miss a lot of data that I should be tracking.
That's 100% true. So The first 2 weeks, you're not going to get your data. You just leave them alone. The only way around this is you create this like low level feeding space for the chicks, where you can put special feed, chick feed or something in there. And you can almost trap them when they come in. If you can lure them in there, a place where mom and dad can't get to, you can lure them in there, trap them, and that's one way to get them in, so you can collect your data. But yeah, I mean, just in an open environment like that,
it's tough.
A good mom, and it sounds like Esther's got really good chicken parenting going on. Yeah, they're doing their job. So you may not be able to get your data for the first 2 weeks.
One thing that I've done is I'll take the dip net, that most every chicken keeper has that they chase them around with. I'll take that and kind of use that to scoot mom and dad back. If you do it real gently, they don't get as uptight. And sometimes you can grab a couple of the chicks at least to be able to wing band them and grab some of your data. But like Jeff said, if you wait till they're about 2 weeks old and they start regulating their temperature better and stuff like that, you can separate them and start grabbing your data better then.
2 weeks old, they can regulate their own body temperature. So it's fine to separate them, put them in a brooder somewhere, depending on what your outside temperatures are doing. But look, the growth rate, okay, if you're doing everything right, the growth rate of hen hatched will beat incubator hatched chicks all the time. Now, one of the caveats being is as soon as they hatch, you're putting mom and the chicks on starter feed, which is a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to rebuild her body, put her on starter feed with the chicks, and let her rejuvenate herself, and she may come back into lay. We've got reports of like some hens are so good that they're actually sitting on 4 clutches of eggs a year, right? And if they're hatching 10 out of 12 of every one of those clutches, that's 40 chicks out of one hen. That's a pretty decent number. So depending on the breed, but that's still a pretty decent number. So if you can get her back into lay and get her mated, it may not be such a bad trade-off.
Yeah, because if the birds have good qualities, then at 2 weeks move them out. She's ready to start laying again. He probably hasn't left her alone, so you'll might be able to get another clutch.
Yep.
Let's see. Victor says, good evening. Drop a like. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. We moved 2,600 miles away. Ooh. That can't be a fun move. Working on it, Jeff. They do get locked out of the coop after breakfast.
Okay. Hopefully breakfast is limited to like 1 ounce each and make them work for the rest of it. So
let's see. Victor says, I started doing that method ever since I met Jeff.
I think he's talking about the feed, splitting
limiting the feed.
Yeah.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I heard a Nankin Bantam will hatch anything. I have no clue.
Me either.
Yeah. So, but that is definitely a rip question, and hopefully he may see that in the comments sometime in the next few days and get back with you. Let's see. Rob said, I've seen people who use Silkies to hatch and raise all sorts of exotic pheasants. Okay. I wonder if I could get them to raise quail.
Yeah, why couldn't you? The Silkie's not. All right, be careful here.
I'm gonna have to get some Silkies just to try all this out.
Okay, so here's one thing you want to be cautious of. Okay, whatever you hatch with the Silkie, if you don't separate them early enough in life, they're going to learn the habits of a Silkie. They're going to act like a Silkie.
They won't eat. They won't eat like they should or anything else, will they?
Just be careful. Right. So there are things transferring, from the whoever hatched them to that chick in those first 2 weeks.
Okay.
So just if you don't want certain personality traits to transfer, I'm all in for using the Silkies as incubators. I get it. Right. And a lot of people do it, but I think you need to be pretty hard at, 10 days, 2 weeks old, where you're separating them out.
Yeah.
Before they pick up, silky habits.
And, a lot of people swear that everything is linked to genetics. But I'm a firm believer that there are certain traits that are environmental. So,
yeah.
And that would make perfect sense with what you said. Another question I saw, and I really like this one. How do I know if a hen is truly broody?
I never had a problem. When you reach in the nest to check eggs and she pecks your hand, that's a pretty good sign, right?
I was going to say, when you see a hen swell up to about twice her size, start growling at you and pecking your hand.
Yeah.
She's probably broody.
She's either there or she's getting there. But yeah. Yeah, if she won't leave the nest box when you reach in there to get an egg, that's a pretty good sign.
Broody.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Esther says, what about low-ranking hens? Should you let them brood? Will they protect the chicks?
That is hen to hen, right? So if you've done it in the past and they've been good protective mothers, yeah, that's fine. Why not? Let them brood. But not every hen has those, really strong protective instincts, right? So this is something you need to make notes of as breeders, right? And if it's a trait you want, then you need to propagate that and keep it moving forward.
Right. So I had a friend of mine contact me. He had one of his hens. He had some Novagens because his family consumes a ridiculous amount of eggs every day, 30 plus. And he asked me, probably 6-8 months ago. He's like, what should I guess? Well, you get Novagens, them things, they're prolific layers. You know, it could be storming outside, hailing, or snowing, and they're still going to lay eggs. So that's what he got, and put a couple Rhode Island Reds in with them. And, you know, they did what they did. And she had really good traits. He was like, man, the other ones just killed them. And I said, well, that's because you got a tight flock. Because the mother knew that that was her chicks. But all the others, those were outsiders coming into their flock. I said, next time you have one go broody, you need to either get them away then, or the day they hatch out, you need to separate them somehow. Because technically speaking, the others they were protecting the flock too. So that's one thing I wanted to caution people about that may never have had that happen, is when you do have a hen go broody and they're in a pen or run with a lot of others, then you need to keep an eye on them, because sometimes the others are traitors. Is there any other way that you could combat that, Jeff, that you know of?
No, not really. And yeah, I don't know.
And he said that the mother hen got beat up pretty bad trying to protect them. So let's see, using broodies is an excellent plan. You're at the mercy when birds go broody. An incubator is available when I am wanting to hatch. I usually use broodies at the end of the season between 6 to 10. Let's see.
Well, and that's okay. So depending on how many chicks you need, it depends on where you're at in your breeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to hatch hundreds, right, to make your selection, because you're still an early stage breeder where your genetics are not coming, really uniform on your hatchings. Like if you're not at like 70 to 80% uniformity, as far as faults and other things, and you're hatching 200-300 to start making have a larger pool to select from,
mm-hmm.
You honestly need to be running an incubator. But when you determine you're getting near the end of your breeding season, it also doesn't, it's actually good for the hen's mental well-being to let her run a hatch. Okay. So to collect eggs in the early breeding season, to put in an incubator, I get it. You do it. And, but I think it's also, so to me, the hybrid system of doing incubator and hen hatching is the ultimate best way of doing it. Okay. That's my personal opinion. You can shoot me if you like, but I think a combination is the winner, right? So, and are those late breeding season eggs, if the breeder's doing their job and they're controlling the egg size where it needs to be for their breed, and you're in that optimum egg size, nutrition's what it ought to be, environment is what, those late eggs will still hatch very well with a high, hatchability rate. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about it. Now, in a lower quality situation, you might get 50 or 60% or even 70%, but then what's your chick vigor going to be, things like that. So, but I would like to see, I'm in on the hybrid system. I think you need to do both. Okay. And just depends on where you're at in your, like Rip isn't hatching that many down there at his place. How many hens is he keeping? I think he's only keeping like a dozen birds, right?
Yeah, he don't have a whole lot anymore.
Right.
What he's got now is for a handful of eggs for him and Mary, and something he can get his grandson to go feed and laugh when he yells and sees a spider.
But his uniformity of his hatch is over 50%, right? Because he started with really good bloodlines. So he doesn't need to hatch 100. He doesn't need to hatch 200, right? And so he can hatch, 50, 60, something like that to get his selection, for the next generation. And he's good there, right? And if everybody stays focused on what they're doing, you can all get to that point. And
it just takes time and management.
Time. Yeah, so an incubator hatch could be, right? Hypothetically, I'm going to say it this way because it could be as good as a hen hatch if the person, if the poultry manager is going to go visit that incubator, 8-10 times a day, right? And show the chicks where to eat and show the chicks where to drink and spend a lot of time with them and do a lot of imprinting and right. And, but most of us still have a day job, right? We work somewhere, we have other things to do. We can't go to the brooder, every 2 hours and check on chicks, right? Well, what's the hen doing all day long, right? She's checking on her chicks.
Well, I have checked in to see if emotional support chicks was a thing. Unfortunately, I don't think that they actually can provide any kind of value. So it might not fly too well in the workplace.
Oh, come on. You can do it. You can do it.
I will say this. I have actually hatched them out before at work.
Yeah.
And it was a hit. Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
So, it worked out.
John Gunnerman did it at the university, at the Sterling University with the daycare, in the daycare lab. That was a winner. Who was it in here that, took some chicks into the nursing home and did it in there, and it was a hit there. I remember seeing the post on either Poultry Keepers 360 or
but I can't remember her name, but I know it's one that's a nurse.
Yeah.
Or something, either a nurse. I don't know what she does, but she's in the healthcare.
Yeah. It was a senior
that was pretty cool.
Facility. Yeah, it is. So there is, look, if there wasn't emotional support from chicks, then Tractor Supply and Rural King and all those other farm stores would be out of business, man. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Okay? So, well, I may do it again.
Yeah, do it.
Hey, you know what?
What?
I have somebody sending me, they actually will be here tomorrow, some Indigo Gigantes. I think it's like 8 or 9 eggs that they're sending me. I should definitely take them into the classroom and incubate them. Yeah. It sounds, it's could be a good science project. One other thing that I saw a person that I'm not going to describe them because people on here will know who they are, but they did a video and they suggested that you not feed chicks the first 24 hours when you take them out of the hatcher. What do you think about not only that statement, but what would you do in the first 24 hours when you took them? Let's say you were taking them out of the hatcher, or you find out that mother hen sucks at being a parent and you need to take that and do it for them to keep the rest of the chicks. What are you doing in the first 24 hours with those birds?
Well, all right, let's back up a step. What is the hen doing with those chicks? As soon as she's confident that they're all done hatching, right? Mm-hmm. She goes and eats. She goes and drinks, right? Mm-hmm. And she is not waiting 24 hours to show those chicks. And people say, oh, they got a yolk sac. They can live up to 3 or 4 days on that, and they don't need, right? I can dig it up if somebody wants to see it, but they've already done the studies that the sooner in life that you get a chick learning how to develop its appetite and learning how to eat and drink, the faster it grows, the faster it will develop. Okay. And they know that a chick in the first 48 hours after it arrives on a farm somewhere, actually really in the first 48 hours, that that is a critical time. There's actually something in their brain, right, that sets their eating habit or sets their appetite. So getting them on feed is as soon as you can. This is my opinion, but the sooner you can get them on feed, the better they're going to be. Okay. And I see this all the time with people who get chicks shipped. And on my commercial side of what I do, poultry nutrition wise, right? People getting broiler chicks shipped all over the country. All right. Mm-hmm. So the overnight shipment, people that get overnight chicks, like within 24 hours, 36 hours, they always outperform, and then you talk to people that the chick was stuck in the mail for 3 days. Mortality rates are always in the 15 to 20% range.
Yeah, they're definitely higher.
Right. So you're never going to convince me that, the chick is okay for a certain length of time without food. Yes, they are. We know that they have a yolk sac. They're good for 3 or 4 days. But I will tell you that the sooner you get them on feed, the better they're going to develop. 100%. Right. So.
See, my question that I had to that person was, if it doesn't matter how soon they get feed, then that means that you feel it's irrelevant. So why do you spend so much money on feed for your breeders?
John Gunnerman, and I keep throwing John under the bus. I'm not really, but I'm using him as an example.
He did a really good study with his.
Well, he hatched quail, right, in that classroom environment. But inside the hatcher, he had food and water.
Yep.
All right. And within, he had a video of a quail that had just hatched, just barely dried off, right? You could still see just a little bit of moisture on it from the hatch, right? It goes over and it chokes down a whole oat. Okay. Now we're talking a quail chick, right?
Yeah.
Not a chicken chick, right? We're talking about a quail chick. And it's choking down a whole oat, right? This coarse grind feed, and no problem with it, right? I mean, that's what they're built to do. That's why they got a crop, and that's why they got a gizzard. So
that's right.
Yeah.
They'll sit
on
it
have to puree it to baby food so that they can digest it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you move a hen and her chicks after hatching?
As far as I know, you can. I mean, I've seen plenty of people do it. Like if they want to get it out of general population, using a prison term at this point. But if they want to get them out of, you can move them to a protected area if you feel that they're being threatened. However,
but you would definitely want to do that after they hatch.
No, you don't. Right?
You'd want to do it before they hatch?
No. You do it after they hatch. You don't do it. I would not move unhatched eggs, right?
That's what I was thinking.
No. You don't disturb the brood. Okay, you never disturb the brood. So once she started, you leave her. Now, if you need to separate them after they hatch, yes, you can do that, right? And she will rebond with those chicks, and it's not an issue,
right?
But I'm not a fan of moving them out of the general population unless you see some aggressive behavior from either a rooster or another hen, right? And then, but now 2 things come into mind. If the hen is doing her job, she's going to protect those chicks, and it's going to be a non-issue, right? Nobody's going to get to those chicks, okay? She's going to do the little chirp call that she does. Those chicks are going to scurry back to her feet and hide under her wings, and it's not going to be a problem. And A good hen knows where every chick is all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you might think that this chick wandered off 5 feet away and mom's not paying attention. You know, with their range of vision, mom's paying attention, right? They've got a huge range of vision. I think I saw 270 degrees range of vision compared to a human that's only 180. Yeah. Yeah. So there's not a whole
That's
lot.
like way back there.
That is way back there. So I'm not, I think the chicks gain in their growing experience and experience period if they can stay in general population. But you have to know your flock. You have to know if they're going to be safe or not safe, right? I mean, you know they have to be set up for success,
Right.
failure. But yeah, that's
one of the articles that I read while I was doing some prep for this said that when hen hatch chicks and they're not in captivity, that the chicks will start foraging as early as 2 to 3 days old.
Yep, 100%.
If it's warm and they're able to.
Yeah, in a really great environment, like the picture behind you on grass, right? So if we got a combination of trees, brush, grass, a natural environment for a chicken, they will. Look, they're going to mimic whatever mom does, right? So if the hen scratches and eats a bug, the chick's going to scratch and eat a bug, right? And if mom eats a blade of grass, the chick's going to eat a blade of grass. So, yeah. So for people who like to do free ranging, that's huge to let those chicks go out there and experience that in that first couple weeks. Absolutely.
I mean, I thought it was kind of, I was like 2 to 3 days, but then I thought about, the times that I have hen hatched, and I go out there and watch because I love that little chirping sound. I don't go to Tractor Supply during that season because that little chirping sound will get me in trouble. Yeah. So I'll just, hatch out my own. At least I know what I'm getting that way.
Tractor Supply has nothing for a person like you. Okay. Just, don't go there.
Right.
But what would you really need to go to Tractor Supply for anyway? You make your own feed, right? You've got everything you need right there already at the farm. Anything else you can probably order from Amazon. You can even order from Tractor Supply and get it delivered. So, there's no need to go there. I mean, why would you give yourself that temptation?
The only reason that I go there is typically when the seasons change. And that's because they'll have a really good deal on their Carhartt stuff that's not in the app. But there's no chicks there at that time to get me in trouble.
All right. If you go in the fall, right?
Yeah.
That September time frame.
Let's see. What would you do? Let's say you didn't have any chicks and you had a broody hen. What would you recommend as far as housing and bedding for that broody hen to get her out of the elements?
Wait. If she doesn't have any eggs, no eggs?
Oh, she's got eggs.
Oh, okay.
Like 1 or 2 of
them. Look, you can't move her. I mean, all you can do is put, some sort of makeshift shelter over her to keep her dry. Make sure she's got enough bedding and stuff like that under. Now, if you don't physically take the eggs out, you can, add some additional bedding in there. You can, in some hens, you can actually put the bedding around her and she will reshape the nest according to what she needs, right? Some will, some won't.
Some won't.
So you can put some loose straw and stuff in there, right? And she'll reshape that nest and make it what it ought to be. But you can't really move them. Like we talked about earlier, I very limited success on moving a hen and eggs to another, and not lose the broodiness, right? Where she'll go back to setting. So I wouldn't want to risk it, especially if it's a breed that you really need eggs from or need chicks from. You can't really risk that. So, but I mean, your nest box or your brood area should have been. I mean, you had to have thought about this a month prior, right? Hey,
I mean, a seasoned chicken tender would.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere by April, by tax day, you really should have cleaned out all the nest boxes, right? Maybe threw a little diatomaceous earth or something else in there just to make sure you got bugs under control, maybe a little lime, high calcium lime, and fresh bedding substrate in there, and get a little bit excessive. And actually, if you want a hen to go broody, if you give her really deep bedding in there where she can get really kind of cozy and comfortable, I feel that the more bedding you put in, the more broody, the quicker they'll go broody, right? I think you're helping that situation.
Right? That makes sense.
You're just making a much more comfortable bed for that chicken, right? And she doesn't want to leave, right? And so,
okay.
Yeah.
One thing I had earlier this year, a lot of times at night, I'll go outside and I'll check on my animals before I go to bed. And I had a chicken make the god awfulest noise. Like I thought I'd stepped on it. And I didn't see one though. I'm looking around and the bushes that we have along the front of our house, one had got on the back side of one of the bushes and decided to lay her eggs. And I'm like, okay, number one, when did you get out? Is this even going to work? And then I realized exactly when it was that she got out, because I do have some cameras back there. And I went and found a drop pen. And for a few weeks, I had a drop pen in my flower bed over a bush with his hen in it. I'm water and feed, My wife's like, what the? I said, hey, look, you don't mess with them. So I was able to keep her calm for a few weeks, and I had to move them. But I mean, like you said, don't move them. I just put the drop pin around her to keep her safe, because I do live in some very raccoon infested places, and my dogs should not be in my front yard unattended. They should be in the fence in the back with everything else. So I had to make sure she was safe.
Well, since we're sharing those funny stories, right? Here you go. The reason I learned that peat moss was an excellent bedding was in the season of my life when we had chickens here at my place in the backyard. Of course, somebody thought we needed bantam, so I had a small black bantam hen, and one day she, of course, did the disappear thing, right? I mean, I was like, I had no clue. I didn't even know. Through the day, she would fly over the fence, 6 foot high, chicken wire fence, in the run, and she would do her own thing. Then one day I didn't see her. Well, I didn't know, did raccoon, did the owl get her? Dog? Anyway, she just disappeared, right? Everybody's, if you've had chickens long enough, you figured this out. She disappeared. And of course, 21 days later, she comes hopping out with 10 chicks, right? But we had a bale of peat moss sitting out by the chicken coop for gardening purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a hole cut in that, no bigger than a dinner plate, a smaller size dinner plate.
Yeah.
And she figured this out, right? So she was in there. And this is where she did her thing, right? All by herself. But she loved that peat moss, man. She'd get in there, she'd bury herself all the way to her eyeballs. She'd just have herself a spa day or something. I mean, it was, and I'm like, well, okay, if they like it, why not?
Whatever.
Use it, right? So,
yeah.
I started doing a little research. Why not? And, look, it's not great nest box material because, when they lay the egg and the bloom is still wet before it dries, It's, you get peat moss stuck all over the eggs, right? So
yeah, because it likes to absorb the moisture.
But this is where I learned that peat moss was a favored bedding substrate for chickens. Now, people don't like it at all because it's dusty, but chickens love that stuff, man. They love peat moss. Anyway, sorry to digress.
So, what is the best advice you can give for the rookie chicken tender as it relates to them deciding that they want to hatch out their very own chicks? What advice would you have for them?
I'll go back to, I still think they need an incubator, right? And I think they need to have the incubator experience. I don't think they need to set their expectations too high until they figure out their incubator based on where they live, because everybody's climate is different. Okay.
Right.
Some people dry hatch, some people need to have have a lot of water and humidity, so, working with one lady, she lives at like 6,000 or 7,000 feet in Colorado, and all these things.
The altitude's a whole different world.
It's a whole different world. So you have to learn how to set your incubator and how, what you're going to do, in your part of the country, because the weather's different. All right. So that's a big challenge. Don't go cheap on your incubator. I mean, if you're going to be serious about this, don't be cheap on your incubator. At least a GQF. If you're not going to go to the hatch time, somewhere in there. There's other good ones. Don't get me wrong. Honestly, the old redwood, if you can get one of the really old redwood incubators, and right, you get it retrofitted with some newer electronics and equipment. But
yeah, that's the big key.
So we've done away with wood, but wood, like redwood, helps stabilize your humidity.
Yeah.
Right. Because it'll take moisture and release moisture, and it'll help you. But okay, so you do the incubator thing, but you also do the hen hatch. It's back to the hybrid. So you do a combination, right? You do a few sets with your incubator, right, to learn it, figure it out, become a better chicken tender. But to make sure that you have genetics moving forward, when a hen goes broody, I would put a dozen eggs under her and let her go. Right. So that would be my advice to somebody just getting started.
Yeah. And, like he said, definitely people ask about incubators, and I tell them they need to get the best quality incubator they can afford in their budget. Because $1,000 incubator may not be in everybody's budget. Maybe only a $200 or $300 incubator. But whatever your budget is, do your homework. Don't just buy the cheapest one, because good crap ain't cheap and cheap crap ain't good. It's got its issues. Yep. So do that, because everybody needs to dial in their incubator and learn how to use it. But if you're lucky enough to have
they should be doing their experimenting in the off season, not in your primary breeding season. Don't wait to, February, March, April, and you're in the middle of your primary breeding season to see if you got your incubator right. Right. Do a few test runs in the off season,
and also don't go buy an incubator and order a $250 dozen of eggs and let that be your first hatching experience.
No.
And then blast the person you got those eggs from.
You see it all the time.
You do. You really do. I see it a lot, because incubating is a science. When you take something from Mother Nature, you have got to get scientific with it. You got to have your incubator dialed in. You got to have your moisture right. You got to have your temperature right. It's got to stay steady. It can't fluctuate. It's got to be almost perfect. very, very consistent. However, you got the hen outside, 110 during the day, 80 at night, huge fluctuation. She's just got her down and nothing else sitting on top of them eggs. Now, ideally, there's not a lot of fluctuation there, but I mean, I've had hens go broody in the wintertime when it was in the 30s and had really good hatch rates. And I'm like, that ain't happening in a cabinet. I don't care how much you spend on it. So take all that stuff into consideration when you're working it out. Because when it happens in Mother Nature, it's Mother Nature. It's going to be what it's going to be. You got to be very detail oriented when you do it yourself. So don't be a rookie incubator and blast the person you got the eggs from. Because I would venture to say if somebody's selling eggs for $250 a dozen, they're also hatching a lot of them to verify the fertility. So,
yeah, and people don't realize.
Go to Bubba that's got some backyard mixes or barnyard mixes, and stick them in your incubator first
experiment
to work it out.
Take the chicks back to them when you're done. I mean, you don't, but you're just running the experiment. So learn the hard way. Your incubator, no matter how good or not good it is, really needs to be in a stable environment. So it should be in a part of your house that is either heated or air conditioned or humidified or whatever, right? But it needs to be, because not all incubators can keep up with those fluctuations, like Carrie just talked about. So you're going to have a much better success rate if your incubator is in a stable environment, right?
Yep. We have a mutual friend up in Canada, and I use this as an example a good bit. He has a nice tabletop incubator, but where it was, the temperature was fluctuating, and so was the humidity. And just by simply moving it into the closet where it's steady, he was able to significantly increase his hatch rate. So,
well, he was having a big issue with ducktoe and curly toe, because that he was going out of range on his humidity.
Yeah, it was jumping way up.
Right, and in that final week, and right before hatch. So stabilizing that. How stable does it need to be in the first 7 days? Don't know. But that last 7 days, when you have a huge amount of chick formation going on,
very important.
Very important. So,
all right. So wrapping it up, in the first week, whether you hatch them out in the hatcher or in the brood pen, what are you feeding? You giving any kind of supplements, electrolytes, anything like that? Because you see stuff in these chicken groups all over. What do you recommend first 2 weeks of the chick's life?
I mean, it's that really true high quality, fresh, high quality, that meets all the numbers, and we've given the numbers for years now. Fresh, high quality starter feed, right? You don't need any magic foo-foo powder, and you don't every time I see somebody talk about save a chick, right, going in the brand new chick water, I'm like, I cringe. I just, I don't know.
What does it need saving from? It just hatched.
Exactly. I mean, I just need some really good, clean, fresh water that is at room temperature. Okay. Because you don't want to cause their body temperature to dive. I need some really great chick feed, like 21, 22% proteins, got all the right amino acids, good vitamin levels. And I need it, really easy to find if it's incubator hatched. So I like to crowd them. one quarter square foot per chick, or I can say it another way, 4 chicks per square foot, right? So they're fairly crowded. And I don't want a chick to go more than 6 or 8 inches without either bumping into feed or water in the first 4 or 5 days. Okay.
They haven't learned how to chicken.
No.
It's got to be right there. They won't figure it out.
After that first week, you can get the feed up off like trays or cardboard or whatever. And then you can start moving out their boundaries and giving them more space after the first week.
Yeah.
But I don't need them out exploring a huge brooder space, and getting lost and disoriented and chilled over in the corner because it's not warm enough over there. Just don't need that headache. But look, good fresh air, good clean feed, good clean water, just
protein that's animal based.
Yeah. And if you don't, the only thing I would say to supplement with is if you wanted to hard boil some eggs, crush them up, shell and all, crush them up a little bit on the finer side, sprinkle that on top of the feed. Now, when I say that, don't get carried away. It is like 1 egg per day for 25 chicks. Okay. It's not, a half a dozen. It's not, right. So, sprinkling hard boiled egg on top of the feed is always good. And, it helps them find that feed.
Before you made the recipe that you called the perfect chicken feed for me, what I would do is I took a pound of store-bought starter that was the best I could find. I'd take a hard-boiled egg and mush it between my hands like I was Mr. Miyagi fixing to lay hands on Danielson. And then I would throw that in a baggie. And then I would take a tablespoon of oil and a tablespoon of breeder supplement. Ziploc, I would fill the bag up with air, ziplock it, and shake it just like my wife does her salads. She'll shake them like this and then open the container. And that's what I'd do.
Yeah, and that's
quick and easy.
I mean, if you're using store-bought feed, right, that's not perfect, then that's a great option. What we did up in Saskatchewan at Kelly's place is we took some chopped up raw liver and some hard-boiled egg, equal amounts. We put a little bit of chick feed in that, a little bit of breeder supplement, and that's what we started them on, right? Just to give them a boost. The liver's full of protein, B vitamins. The egg's got all the benefits of an egg. So, that was a win-win situation, in his case. So there's things you can do if you can't get that awesome chick feed. There are things you can do, but I'm not a huge fan of adding things. I know I design supplements for you and me and other people, and that's only because I realized that in our world, most places you can't get top shelf, high quality chicken feed, right? I'm sorry to say that, but the choices at Tractor Supply, Rural King, and elsewhere are not really choices. It's kind of like when I go vote every 4 years or whatever. I'm choosing the lesser of two evils.
Yeah,
and I hate it. I mean, I hate it. Right? I don't like any of them. But
all right. Well,
all right.
I'm scanning the comment section, and I do not see anything that we have left out.
Well, so, I want to, Rob made a great point. He can leave his brooder for a week unattended with chicks. He can fill up the food and water, and he can go. And Rob, you are 100% correct. I don't disagree with you at all. At the end of the day, hen raised will still outperform anything we do in a brooder. We just can't beat Mother Nature. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. You can fill up the food and water and leave them unattended for a week. So I agree with that statement.
Yep. All right.
All right.
So
I'm
2
good
weeks.
Unless there's another question. So
2 weeks. Aside from that, we'll see y'all in the comment section.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.